I can't move forward in my relationship with myself, even with others, if I'm so continually critical and judgmental. That's a suffocating tool right there.
Things that are in your environment or relationship you have with somebody is gonna spill over into all the other things that affect you.
If it costs me my peace, it's too expensive. And I need to look at the thing that's costing me the most peace here, and in my life.
Welcome, everybody, to today's discussion on the key to a thriving relationship. I have with me two wonderful people, coaches that are with the Vitality Exchange and our new Conscious Leader 90-Day Wellness Program. So I'm going to let both Sandra and Wolf introduce themselves to give you kind of a background on their expertise and experience. And then we're going to dive in because I think that everybody wants to have thriving relationships. It's just such a cool word, but I don't know that most people feel like they have thriving relationships, if I have to put a stake in the ground and show my cards. So, who wants to kick off the introductions first?
Hello, hello. I am Sandra D. Johnson, and I label myself as a family emotional wellness coach. I do non clinical counseling, focusing in on that emotional and mental health of all of us. And so, why it's important, I try to stay with our everyday life issues. I am the founder of Mattacell Group, and Mattacell stands for making a difference in someone else's life. And I try to walk that out on a regular.
Hi, I am Wolf Castillo, and I am today, it changes moment to moment at times, but today I'm showing as a financial and life coach with a particular focus, especially in this context, but also in general on the relationships that we have with these various aspects of our life. Because for me, we have a relationship with money in the way that I have a relationship with my mom or my significant other, or even the way that I relate to my partner. There's always relationships, and for the past 10 years, I've had the pleasure of coaching in various capacities. And it more as I evolved in my personal journey, evolved towards focusing on relatedness and being able to create empowering relationships. But most of my focus typically lies in what is disempowering the relationships. So I really enjoy spending time in the darkness and learning around those things, because when those are shown love and light, those have a tendency to create thriving relationships all around. And that's what I'm up to: thriving relationships, and also just generally mission around mental and emotional well-being of the planet, people feeling fulfilled with the work that they're doing or the love that they're spreading. So yeah, nutshell.
And I'm Shannon Vivar. I am the executive director of the Vitality Exchange, as well as the chief operating officer of Mixed Theory Studios, which is a music multimedia studio. And I'm really excited about the new program that we're offering, as well as the Vitality professionals that are creating this wonderful community, talking about how do we create basically a new definition of success and how do we make our lives healthier and bringing forth that vitality in everything that we do. So, just to kick us off from a thriving relationship perspective, what would you describe as thriving in a few words? Like the word thriving, like what does it actually mean to you?
I would say, first off, thriving for me is about breathing. All right. So I need some life. So life is breath. So I want breath first. So that breathing piece is, sometimes again, we take it for granted because we don't have to check in with it. Right. It's just happening. The beauty of it, it's happening. Now, to do it well, I do need to be intentional. I need to get mindful and understand that my breath is good for me, it's good for the environment, it's good for my relationships. I don't have relationships with dead people. I'll go ahead and put that out there. I'm comfortable with that. I don't have relationships with the dead. So I want my relationships with things that I'm about, even if they are not human, they bring life to something. So as Wolf even highlighted, a relationship with money, we need to make sure it's good. So I need to be breathing to get involved in that first. So that's going to be my first buzzword for, you know, thriving.
Breath is integral to everything, obviously, but maybe taking it from a metaphorical perspective when it comes down to relationships, feeling comfortable enough that you do have that breath or that space within whatever relationship to freely move, right? Because I don't know how many times that I've had strained relationships where you feel like every single time that you make a move or you say a word or you do something, right? That you're wondering if that is going to cause you to tip off the edge or set them off or cause some unwanted consequence, right? And so I'm thinking about the breath in relationship to thriving relationships, right? If I can't be myself and I don't have that space to breathe if I'm always concerned with how I'm being perceived. And so if I'm always coming from a place of fear or shame or anxiety or any of those other negative emotions, then I am not breathing and I am not having that what would be a thriving relationship with whatever I'm interacting with, right?
That's right. Yeah. And when you said strange, Shannon, the word that supports this concept is suffocating. So the strained is going to be a type of suffocating that's going to try to what? Pull the breath away from that relationship. And it's not thriving if you're not breathing.
Mhm.
Love that. So it means we got to be checking what's suffocating us. What's causing that suffocation? Again, it's going to be an awareness.
Well, I mean, you think about it, right? It's really hard to take a step back and maybe look at your life in this more of a objective manner. I don't know that we go about our day going, "Oh, like this is causing me a little bit of uncomfortableness." You just do what you do. You go through your life and do what you do and you're with the people that you're with and it's like this unconscious trained behavior that we're going through, right?
Mhm.
Right.
So, it takes a lot of energy, brain power, and to it's hard to take a step back and go, "Oh my gosh, like, where am I and what's causing my uncomfort? Is it because of me? Is it because of, this situation or like what?" And I don't think half the time you actually even can know unless you spend time with that, and it's hard.
It's hard, but it's not impossible.
How do you coach somebody through that? Whether it's a family or an entrepreneur that's struggling with the relationship with money, whatever, because entrepreneurs do struggle with the relationship with money. But as coaches, one of your main jobs is to listen and then be that objective person, somebody who doesn't have kind of skin in the games to be able to point some of these things out that the person themselves might not be recognizing. So, how do you walk somebody through that process?
You wanna take it, Wolf?
I'm swinging in like Tarzan. I'm going to answer your question and tie in my, if you will, like definition of thriving, at least in this moment, which is progress towards a commonly shared, inspiring vision. And the reason why I highlight that is because we've all probably heard that saying, you're either growing or you're dying. And if it is quite that binary, I'm not completely certain, but I like to tend to believe that that is true because I am either, whether in big strides or in tiny baby steps, moving towards a more thriving relationship where I experience, not with words, but with my felt embodied presence, a closeness and a proximity with another person, or in even healthier relationships, say in the case of money. Not one where I feel like I need to ravenously always pursue more money, but rather to get to a place where I'm comfortable with what I have and I'm excited for what I'm welcoming in. Because the opposite of that, whether we want to admit it or not, typically, is if our relationship in, we'll say in the context of people, if it's slowly dying, it's harder to see. It's that death by a thousand paper cuts. And that to me is the real, that's the thing that I would be most afraid of, is that gradual progression because a clear end is very obvious. But the microaggressions that are never addressed over a period of time that compound to where it's an explosion, they didn't come from nowhere. we got to where we are because of every single moment that led up to this and whether or not we were having the conversations that need to be had. So to how do we coach this, or how do we presence this? Well, for me, it's you first have to recognize and be really honest, to use your word, Sandra, awareness. I have to recognize that right now I am in the hole. And because I was slowly digging it with a tiny little shovel, and I'm like, it's not a big deal. I'm just going into a little bit of debt. Think of it in terms of money. My relationship is either moving into more debt and not a healthy type of debt, or it's moving towards an abundance. The account, the balance that I have is growing, whether it's large or in small. I'm either building up or I'm digging myself down, and not in a way to spread roots and to feel more grounded, but in the way where I'm feeling entrenched. So if I can be honest and say, you know what, this relationship is not expressing itself in the way that I see it's possible, that I think we see it's possible, then I have to be honest and say, hey, this is not working, and get more specific into these are the things that are not working. I'm going to start with myself. I am not showing up in these ways. And please tell me the ways that you don't see that I'm not showing up. And I use myself as an example first because this is usually how I'm coaching. I'm going to coach from a first world example of myself, because instead of pointing fingers and telling someone you should be doing this, it's more like, hey, like I've made these mistakes in my own way. Here's what's not working. Ugh, I feel lighter. It hurts to say that, but I also feel lighter because now I feel like the honesty is being expressed, and now we're slowly putting some dirt back into that hole. Once I get really clear about what's not working, and then we get clear about what's not working, then we start to put in the practices that build that closeness, that start to patch those paper cuts that were starting to like really express themselves. And we start to mend and to, if you will, like move into our wholeness and our unifiedness. And obviously there's more tactical things like in the weeds we can get into, but from a philosophical ground basis standpoint, I have to be honest about where I'm at and then look at you in your eyes. Okay, now we know where we're at. This sucks. Common shared vision. What do we want? Because this ain't it. And then when we know what that is, that's what leads to those extrapolating actions, those compound interests, those little things that we do over time that progress us towards that abundance, towards that vitality that we want to experience. But it all starts with, here's my junk, here's your junk. And now how do we move forward?
What do you say, Sandra? How do you approach that?
First of all, I'm all in on Brother Wolf here. That's on target. And so I use a few different words. So I was thinking of it um literally like sports coaches, where let's get this championship. We can't get a championship if you guys aren't working out. If you ladies, you guys, whoever, you're not doing the everyday labor, right? So we got to take a look at what are we doing? How do we get here? Not to blame, but just to call a spade a spade. Let's get the real deal here. Call it what it is. Give that thing a name. Okay. So I would say, just looking at the relationship with self, right? Because sometimes when I'm talking to young people, it's very interesting. Even when we use the word relationship, they have, and we've done this in our world, right? We've all done it. We all do the same thing. You hear relationship, it's always romantic. Well, there's relationships everywhere in everything that we're about. So let's go to me. So my relationship with myself, if I'm saying that I want to do weight loss, and what is it going to take? Well, first of all, I got to identify I'm uncomfortable in this particular situation that I'm in. So I'm uncomfortable with this weight. And let's set a goal in here. So other people shouldn't be setting goals for you either. You have to do it for yourself. A coach, like, I can give you some ideas, but I'm not going to set that goal for you. I'm not going to say you need to lose that many pounds. That's not my responsibility. What do you want? Right. So going back to the awareness, calling it what it is. You say you want to get a championship. First of all, do you really want a championship? Right? Because a lot of times as leaders out here, we say we want to accomplish this, that, and the other. It looks good, sounds good on paper, but what does it look like with legs? Ooh, it gets uncomfortable, right? So we're coming back and we're using some of those same words again. Let's get some breath in this. Let's get some breath in this and start identifying what has suffocated your breath. What are you allowing? What is someone else bringing in that's suffocating the breath? So we're going to, again, go back. Let's take a look at the small things without the judgment, right? And I think even for ourselves, we're judgmental toward others, but our first critic lives in our shoes. Like we are criticizing this, that, and the other. It's like, I can't move forward in my relationship with myself, even with others, if I'm so continually critical and judgmental. That's a suffocating tool right there. It will take the life out of anything if it's always condemned. You're always feeling condemned. Why move forward? So again, we got to start identifying some of those things that are attacking you. Some of them you're welcoming, some of them you're not aware of just because, right, of the vision that we'll get. Like you got to I think a coach serves as this peripheral, right? We help you with blind spots. We got to first admit we all have them.
I mean, oh, judgment, man, that is something that's conditioned from birth. I mean, that's the whole ball of wax in itself, right? Like most people will feel like everybody's always judging them anyways, and to the standards, right? So you're actually challenging those people to set their own standards, which may be contradictory to what they've been told is the right standards.
Yep.
And you're also countering that with groupthink, right? Because you want to be part of a crowd, you want to be accepted by whoever, whatever group. Like if you're saying I want to be accepted by my family as one aspect, or I want to be accepted by the business that I work with, I want to get that promotion, right? So they need to be accepting me that I am the right fit for the role, the right fit for the company culture, the I look the right way, or I talk the right way. And so you're already putting words in people's mouths even that maybe they're not even thinking that, but you're having that dialogue in your head. So
Mhm.
those judgments that you've now kind of perceived that other people are judging you, you've actually story told
Mm.
in a way,
Right.
which
Like,
does a whole bunch of negative things because most people storytelling is not so positive.
Mm.
If we start to think more in abundance, then we say, well, why wouldn't they like me?
Right. Do you like you?
mm,
Right?
Comes back to that self relationship.
Hmm. So basically, uh, one key to a thriving relationship is to get comfortable in your own skin.
mhm,
Absolutely. Very important.
Okay, so say we get comfortable in our own skin. We love ourselves. We think very highly of ourselves. Not to say we don't have any fallacies or anything like that, but there's just a genuine acceptance of who we are, where we are at this point in time. Most people want to expand and grow and continue to change and evolve, right?
Right.
But from a acceptance perspective, we have to say, where am I right now? How am I feeling? And I love myself and I know that I'm in the place that I'm supposed to be and all this other stuff, right? Okay, so you have this key to thriving relationship is having that type of a relationship with yourself. Now, how do you go about looking at the environment that you're in or the people, the relationships you have with others or things and how that impacts because they're also interrelated. Like I almost feel like it's this web of stuff. Like it's really hard to discern.
Mhm.
where to start, is that what you mean?
Yeah, where to start. I mean, outside of okay, you start with you're comfortable with yourself, right?
Yeah,
But I mean, and that would be huge. I mean, just getting to that point, I think would be
Yeah.
you're you're going good, right?
yeah,
But there's so many times where things that are in your environment or relationship you have with somebody is gonna spill over into all the other things that affect you.
absolutely. As we've said before, even before we started the conversation, that it's all interconnected. It's
Mhm.
something I heard recently was like, there's no mental health, there's no emotional health, there's no financial health. It's just health. It's all health. It's all interconnected. You
Mhm.
can individually pull them apart to work on the pieces, but they're only as good as their total sum. And for me, the way I like to, where I personally like to start is, as one of my friends said, and I hold this very near and dear to my heart, if it costs me my peace, it's too expensive.
Mm.
And I need to look at the thing that's costing me the most peace here, and in my life. And if, for instance, this is one that came up recently, there, for the longest time, my disturbed peace was my personal finances because all I'd ever known was debt. All I'd ever known was going out to dinner with friends and either getting the cheapest thing I could find on the menu because that's what I could reasonably afford, or saying I was fasting because I didn't have the money, but I wanted to be with everyone. And because that was not working, and because I was being dishonest with myself about how that wasn't working, I didn't address it. But the moment that I decided that this is the thing that most consistently and reliably messes with my life, not even just going out with friends. I mean, we're talking like my intimate relationships would suffer because I couldn't do something as simple as I wanted to go and get a really nice gift for my significant other and not be concerned for myself after I spent that money if I was going to be okay. That's disturbing my peace. I need to go and start making tiny actions there. Or if it's specifically in my relationship with my significant other, because let's just say there's a truth about myself that I'm afraid to share. For instance, I really struggle within myself at this point in time to know how to love myself when I am by myself alone and no one else is around. Like to really honestly admit that and to bring that to my partner, or that there was something that I'm not being fully honest with you about. I'm not being honest with you about how I've been experiencing us growing apart and I don't know what to do about it. And it makes me afraid. Like, it was starting in that place and being really honest about the thing that's causing the most pain, because typically, if I found for myself, if I address the thing that's most disturbing my peace, somehow a lot of these other things that we're whispering have a tendency to either not be as big of a deal or solve themselves, or something else becomes a higher priority. But I'm going to go and deal with the thing that's causing the most pain first because the cost of my peace is too expensive.
Good evaluator.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yes. You want me to take that on?
Mhm. Make it unpeaceful by being silent.
Yeah.
I love it. You're right, and it was that silence was beautiful. And even in that, like learning how to be comfortable in it. Like we run from silence. It's like, oh no, it makes me uncomfortable. It's like be uncomfortable in it because it's actually beautiful and it can help us grow. So I like that idea. I would do some of those same things, to identify what is disturbing the peace, or even I guess I don't use that particular phrase as much, but it's a powerful piece. I go back to what is causing that discomfort, right? So, which is going to be disturbing your peace. Are we willing to even say it? Like when you talk, Shannon, and you were talking about when I'm really comfortable with me and I feel like I'm good, everything's good. Everything doesn't have to be good for you to be comfortable with you. So if I'm just identifying the relationship with myself, if I'm there, if I'm focusing in on that and being comfortable in my flaws, that right? Because we should be growing. Sometimes I think people may even misunderstand what peace and even being uncomfortable is. It's like, so if you have a flaw, you have this weakness, right? So we because the whole person is strengths and weakness. We are not whole people if we're talking about we're strong all the time. That's us not being honest. So it comes back to where I support where Coach Wolf is going to be about like, am I willing to be honest with myself? Am I willing to say, this makes me uncomfortable? And so I love when he talked about how um, just the reality, because money causes so much stress, right? Whether we have too much of it, not enough of it, don't know how to be in the middle of things, but the idea of just being comfortable with that and saying, I made some bad decisions. I made some bad decisions, or I've grown up around bad decisions. Like the family network, that's It was always that. And so sometimes we'll ride on that and say, I'm supposed to stay in it because it's always been that way. And it's like, no, if you want something else, be willing to fight for something else. Be willing to fight for something healthy. Be willing to be uncomfortable in fighting for it. Let that become your peace. I'm going to fight for it, even though it's uncomfortable. And I'm going to go against the grain of my family upbringing because they've always known that poverty mindset. And it's like, I don't have to live there anymore. Um, even when, like, we think about just again, staying on the money, like, it's embarrassing. It can be embarrassing. Am I willing to be embarrassed for a short time so that I can be strong in my character for long term? So that's going to be that relational self piece as a leader, because I think there's things we do in leadership that we won't do it because I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want that to look. I don't want them to know I have weakness. I don't want them to know I have these flaws. That's not healthy. That's not healthy at all because we all made the same stuff. We all bleed the same blood, man. Right? If that thing breaks your arm, that's probably gonna break my arm too. So I probably want to make a better decision. And just again, coming back to that, like, am I willing to be honest? And that can be uncomfortable.
Well, I actually believe that that brings up communication is how key it is, right? Because there's so many times where, especially in a professional setting, you don't feel like you can be your authentic self. You
Right.
can't express yourself. You can't communicate the way you would want to communicate, um, because you don't want to be perceived as, again, weak or flawed or unsuitable for whatever reason,
Right.
for the role or for the company or for whatever. Um, and communication, just going back to what Wolf had said, being honest and being able to express that uncomfortableness or that fear or that negative emotion that's holding you back and stealing your peace, most of the time, communication becomes the barrier because we can't express it in the right words without maybe triggering somebody else's reaction that then causes another issue for us, right? So, you feel like, "Oh, you know what? I just give up. I'm never gonna have thriving relationships because this is
Hmm.
too hard."
Too much work. No, thank you. Yeah.
Right.
Because we all feel like we have to say the right things, be the right things, do
Mm,
the right things, be in the right have enough money, do, eh, you know, um, and we've set a bar for ourselves, right? And
mhm,
it's and in doing so, we set that bar for our families as well, or our children, or our employees, or whatever, right? Because
Right.
we're exuding that, and then they're absorbing that energy that we're giving off.
right, right.
Absolutely. And something that you're saying that is like, I feel it reverberating through my body is the importance of making space for and having a commitment between myself and the people that I'm in relatedness with.
Mm,
The commitment that we have to each other to make space for the F up, for the moments when you are going to jack it up. And the
mm,
reason why this is so important for people like myself who've ever experienced any form of chronic dysregulation in relationships, where there is a true fear of making any mistake. Because if I make a mistake, the fear that is beneath that is, you will not love me, you will leave me, you will not stick around. So
mm,
instead, I become a people pleaser. My people pleaser is the shield that I create around me to protect me from the potential of losing you because I truly do care about you. But instead, if I learn how to connect with that part of me that is wounded and afraid because of the past experiences that I've had in relationship, whatever happened that then got me to the version of me now who sits before you. And here we are in relatedness. You have to believe if you're truly in relatedness with someone that you truly love and care about, you are going to trigger, is the very common used word right now, to trigger or to bring up something that rarely has much to do with the person right in front of you, has more to do with the mask of the previous people that they've been with or the previous experiences that they had. But if rather we set up the context to say, we are going to make mistakes. And what we can do to pull from a mentor of mine that like this really like shook my world. There's two very simple things that are the three simple things that we can utilize. One is we have some kind of, if you will, safe word. And the safe word is basically a way to say, I am too elevated right now to have this conversation and it to come from my heart and not from either needing to defend myself or to attack you or some other mixture of the two. And usually, how I've been told to measure that is, let's just say 1 to 10 on an emotional scale. 10 is I am losing my mind and I cannot like be here at all. And one being, all right, cool as a cucumber. I'm chilling, right? Like being able to measure where I am. And if I am above, if I'm a 4 and above, safe word, pineapples, whatever it is. Pineapples is our agreement, whether it's you or me or us saying it's in love, let's pause. And it also means we are going to come back to this. I love you. I'm not going anywhere. From that place, the versions of people like myself who are really nervous about that pause because of whatever dysregulation we've experienced, the people who are cool, they're cool. The people who are not cool, no, okay, we're going to come back to this. Okay, breathe, breathe, always coming back to the breath. And now we get into that third piece. So it was one, we have safe word, two, we have emotional scale. And the third one is we have a repair process. We have pre-spoken about when crap goes up in flames, this is what we do. When we come back, when we've de-escalated, I've gone for a little walk, got some sunlight, feet on the earth, whatever I need to down regulate the stress hormones in my body. These are the steps that we will follow, and we will get to a better place because it is okay for us to have kerfuffles. It is okay for us to mess up. And in fact, it's in those mess ups that we typically find how to do it better next time. Don't run from it, embrace it, have those processes in place, and know like love isn't going anywhere. But sometimes it feels like that when we're a little stressed out.
I like it. Absolutely. And I gotta highlight triggers, we have to normalize them. And I'll tell you where I see it happening the best is our youngest generation. These younger people are because they challenge us all the time with you're triggering me, right? And so that's one of the things I learned from them. And then I have to help them to understand um that they can trigger adults as well. But they're teaching us how to normalize, and we have to normalize triggers because it happens. It's human. It's a human thing. Safe words. Kudos, kudos. I'm telling you, we gotta put it in there. You talk about communication. I gotta think about that. I gotta put that in. That's gotta be something in any of my relationships. We have safe words. So, and then I'm gonna take us back to being in third grade. You learned a principle. All of us as adults, whether we're in leadership, we're serving under, we're middle management, no matter what. In third grade, we learned about this concept of greater than, less than, and equal. And what our problem is, we left it at math and didn't understand we've got to take it into our relationships. So one of the key things I think that keeps us from real good communication is I don't understand equality. I don't understand equality because I'm going to be making all these judgments because someone's either, and this happens in communication, we will speak we'll speak greater than, we'll speak less than to people. Those two things can get us all off track. They can mess up our equilibrium in our relatedness to other humans, right? And so if I see myself as equal and I see who I'm dealing with, my team, they are me. They're equal. They don't have to look like me, think like me. But in humanity, we are beautiful all the same. And each one of us has this beautiful thing to add to each other. So I think equality, understanding your equality with other humans can take your communication to a beautiful place that it's never been before, right? And so I also talk about this in my coaching services. Communication is also about anatomy. I have 2 ears and 1 mouth. I should be listening twice as much as I speak. And that's something we cannot seem to get a handle on either. Especially, I'm going to go ahead and throw my female gender out there because I know as a woman, boy, I gotta talk. I gotta talk. I gotta talk. And sometimes men are like, we don't have to say all those words. We could have did that in less. And so and I feel like we're continuing to where we got to continue to evolve in that and use the human anatomy we were given of 2 ears and 1 mouth and listen twice as much. And listening in communication must be I gotta share that because I've been learning some great things through research, through experience, through just the journey of coaching and helping people to understand that when you are listening, you're listening with your whole self. So as a leader with a team, if they don't feel like they're heard, they don't feel like they're accepted. So all of that stuff is going to take away from the vitality of the relationship you could have. And man, a team that feels like they're heard, that's a thriving workforce. They are in it to win it for you. They don't care who is getting all the credit. They are in that because they need to know that their leader is going to hear them. Their leader is going to listen with their whole self. And another piece I think that I must add with that listening is when you are really intimately listening or actively listening, we use all these adjectives around listening, but when you are truly engaged in listening, you haven't a real listener hasn't already come up with the solution before the problem's spoken. A real listener actually is going to hear that whole thing out. There is a proverb that says, "A fool answers before he hears the matter." And I got to tell you, in my leadership days, when I saw that proverb and I started realizing, oh my goodness, I've already come up with a solution before they brought the problem. No, I'm messing up my relationships. I'm messing up my relationships. And I had to slow it down and say, let me go ahead and hear with my whole self and see and get this whole experience because the whole thing is about a relationship. It's not just the bottom line, how these numbers are going to come out. Did we get that product right? Man, it's the journey that happens in getting to that finish line. That's what's going to last. Because we know all of this. What's going to last is that human relationship. This other stuff's just extra fluff.
Mhm. I love how you said, the less than, greater than,
Equal.
equal to, uh, in the context of communication, because I do believe parents, I mean, just taking it into the parental role, right,
Mhm.
of always being like, "Well, you don't know as much as I have. You don't know, you haven't walked, this earth for,
Yeah.
30 plus years, or 40 plus years, and how can you really have a perspective? I'm here trying to protect you, and you're gonna just do what I say." And that is challenging with this generation. You cannot
Yes.
do that because there's so much information available to them. Back in the days when I was growing up, I mean, you just looked at, like, "Oh, this is how it has to be," because you didn't have any more examples
Mm,
than what was right in front of you.
right.
And I do believe that it is challenging, and I don't, and if everybody could think about that, a human, regardless of their age, sex, or gender, or race, or whatever, was just that, a human, and I was a human, and we're having a human conversation, we would probably eliminate a lot of issues.
Yeah. The conflict would decrease because that greater than, less than piece will create conflict all the time.
Mhm.
And I know that those relationships and the way that you can converse can create a lot of internal pressure and a lot of angst and a lot of self-doubt, a lot of things like that. And whether that person, that parent's probably not intending that to be the case, but it's being interpreted by the young person as, disapproval or, whatever. So it's a great reminder, Sandra. Thank you for
Absolutely.
bringing that. I like that. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, we're all taught it, right? We're all taught that in math, but no one's teaching us take it out of the classroom and understand it's going to go with you the rest of your life. It'll be in the background, and a part of my coaching responsibility on the earth is to bring it back to the forefront.
Oh, but yeah, but if you start with yourself and you go, I'm equal to whoever I'm talking to, that is the first step
Yeah,
Hmm.
right,
because it starts with yourself.
right. Because they're nervous and you're nervous, right? They struggle with arrogance, you struggle with arrogance. we, we deal with all some of the same stuff. It just has on different hats or different sides or whatever, but we're all struggling with some of the same deals, same situations.
Hmm.
Well, I love it. I have pineapples and less than and greater than equal sign. I'm taking away from those as keys for sure. Don't worry, you'll be seeing some social media posts with pineapples.
That's great.
Well, I know that we're running up against our time, so any parting thoughts, I would love to hear from you as it relates to, if you had one thing to suggest to a person who felt like they weren't thriving in whatever sense. It could be a relationship with a partner, a child, a boss, a coworker. It could be relationship with money or, the fact that maybe you don't have a relationship with yourself. Like, what is that one, like, cool key takeaway that you could be like, if you could do anything, you should try this first or make sure you're trying this?
I would say I want to really just do a play. It's not really a play on words, but technically, I guess it could be. I think that we have to just identify like this is a vitality exchange, a vitality connection, right? So I think if I look and I say my relationships are vital, I think that just understanding anything is vital. That should mean it ought to stay at the forefront of your mind. It ought to be incredibly important. Just knowing that it's vital is the first thing. We can help work all those other little things that we talked about. You can put this little recording on repeat or whatever we do, right? So it's like it's vital. It's vital. You're worth it. I'm worth it. It's vital. Your relationship. And I think it thrives when I understand the vitality that can be there, but I got to first understand it's vital. It's essential, right?
I love it. Yes.
And this is a great relationship we're having right here. Just so you know, it's a part of our life journey right here.
I love the fact that I get to talk to amazing people in the community every single time I'm learning something new and I'm getting challenged and reminded of all the things that I want to do better and I want to be better and but yes, I feel blessed to have a community of wonderful people like the two of you. So,
Right.
and I can have all these conversations every day all day long. So,
Mm.
and yes, people should listen to this on repeat. And in my opinion, it will
I
help.
concur. I concur. That's right.
Nourishment for the soul. My one thing is a package deal of three C's: compassion, clarity, and commitment. Compassion for where I am right now in this moment because I might not feel worthy or enough or like I'm doing a good job. And beating myself up for where I am does not get me any closer to where I want to be. It's simply salt on the already existent wound.
Yeah.
So loving myself in that compassion. Clarity. Where do I want to go? Who do I want to go with? And once I get clear about that, then commitment. I get to move me forward. I'm not going to beat myself up for the debt that I've accumulated with money or in my relationship. I'm going to have compassion. I'm going to get clear about what I truly want. I want abundance. I want vitality. I want to feel that coursing through my veins in the way that blood is coursing through my veins. And I will commit. I will start to attack the debt that I have, move some money from eating out into paying off the credit card debt that I have, or moving time away from video games to spend 15, 20, 30 minutes of eye to eye connection time with my significant other or the person that I'm working with in a business relationship. I'm going to allocate and I'm going to commit differently because with new commitment comes new actions lead to new results lead to new data to analyze, to look at and say, okay, cool, that worked, that didn't. Now what's next?
I love it. I got some great feedback and some great keys to take away. And I hope that people are excited about making more improvements and betterments in their own personal relationships with self, with social, with spiritual, however you're looking at it. And we have more great conversations with the Vitality Exchange coming out. Please check us out. And I appreciate your time. So thank you so much to our special coach guests and also for listening. Thank you.